I never thought my life would change so drastically because of some damn herbs. There I was, Riley Johnson, 35 years old and struggling to keep my small winery afloat in Tulsa. The irony wasn't lost on me. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl trying to make it in the wine business in Oklahoma, of all places. But hey, a girl's got a dream, right? My parents, bless their conservative hearts, couldn't wrap their heads around it. "Riley, honey," my mom would say, her voice dripping with concern. "Wouldn't you rather settle down with a nice man and start a family?" I'd roll my eyes and take another swig of my latest vintage. If only she knew. It was a scorching summer day when I decided to check out the community garden. I figured, why not learn about herbs for wine pairing? Might give me an edge in this cutthroat business. That's when I saw her, Tiffany Evans, all legs and curves, with chestnut hair that caught the sunlight just right. She was bent over a rosemary plant, and I couldn't help but stare. "You gonna stand there all day or actually learn something?" she called out, not even looking up. I felt my cheeks flush, and not just from the heat. "Sorry, I was just admiring your technique," I stammered, moving closer. She stood up, brushing dirt from her hands, and I was struck by her emerald eyes. "Technique, huh? Is that what they're calling it these days?" A smirk played on her lips. We spent the next hour talking herbs and wine, and I found myself hanging on her every word. Turns out Tiffany was a sommelier, and a damn good one at that. As we chatted, I couldn't help but notice the way her eyes lit up when she talked about wine. It was the same passion I felt, and it was intoxicating. "You know," I said, feeling bold, "I've got a batch of experimental wine back at my place. Care to give it a try sometime?" Tiffany raised an eyebrow. "Smooth, Riley, real smooth. But yeah, I'd like that." As we exchanged numbers, I felt a flutter in my chest. It had been so long since I'd connected with someone like this. Living in Tulsa as a not-so-straight woman wasn't exactly a walk in the park, and I'd gotten used to the loneliness. But something about Tiffany made me feel like maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. Over the next few weeks, Tiffany and I texted constantly. We shared wine recommendations, bitched about difficult customers, and slowly opened up about our lives. I learned that she was 38, single, and had moved to Tulsa for a change of pace after burning out in New York's competitive wine scene. "It's not easy being the only queer sommelier in a sea of stuffy old men," she confided one night. I nearly choked on my wine. "Wait, you're gay as a rainbow, honey. Don't tell me you didn't notice." I laughed, relief washing over me. I hoped, but I didn't want to assume. Finally, the day came for Tiffany to visit my winery. I spent hours making sure everything was perfect. The wines were at the right temperature, the cheese pairings were immaculate, and I'd even put on a dress for the occasion. When she walked in, my breath caught in my throat. She was wearing a sleek black jumpsuit that hugged every curve, and her hair was swept up in an elegant updo. "Wow," I managed to say. "You clean up nice yourself, Johnson," she grinned, looking me up and down. As we tasted through my wines, I found myself getting lost in the way her lips curved around the glass, the way her throat moved as she swallowed. When our hands brushed as I showed her how to properly swirl the wine, I felt a jolt of electricity that nearly made me drop the glass. "Easy there," Tiffany laughed, steadying my hand. "Can't waste good wine?" As the sun began to set, I suggested a tour of the vineyard. We walked among the vines, the golden light casting everything in a warm glow. Tiffany stopped suddenly, turning to face me. "Riley," she said softly, "I have to ask, is this just a professional thing, or—" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. Definitely not just professional. And then she was kissing me, her lips tasting of wine and promise. As we stood there among the vines, I knew my life was about to get a whole lot more interesting, and I couldn't wait for the next chapter to begin. The weeks following that kiss in the vineyard were a whirlwind. Tiffany and I fell into a rhythm, spending every spare moment together. We'd stay up late, sampling wines and trading stories, our laughter echoing through my little winery. It felt like I'd known her my whole life, yet each day brought new discoveries. One evening, as we were cleaning up after a particularly successful tasting event, Tiffany cornered me by the oak barrels. "You know," she said, her voice low and teasing, "I still haven't tried that experimental batch you promised me." I grinned, feeling a familiar flutter in my stomach. "Well, we can't have that, can we? Follow me." I led her to the back of the cellar, where I kept my pet projects. The air was cool and damp, heavy with the scent of fermenting grapes. I pulled out a bottle, its label handwritten and smudged. "This," I said, holding it up to the dim light, "is my pride and joy. A blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah with a twist." Tiffany raised an eyebrow. "And what's the twist?" I winked. "You'll have to taste it to find out." As I poured the deep burgundy liquid into glasses, I watched Tiffany's face. Her green eyes were focused, professional, but there was an undercurrent of excitement that made my heart race. She lifted the glass to her nose, inhaling deeply. She murmured. "I'm getting blackberry, a hint of vanilla, and—" "Is that lavender?" I nodded, impressed. "Good nose. The lavender's from my herb garden. I infused it during fermentation." Tiffany took a sip, closing her eyes as she let the wine roll over her tongue. When she opened them again, they were shining. "Riley, this is incredible. The lavender adds this unexpected floral note that complements the fruit perfectly. It's bold but elegant. Like you," she added with a smirk. I felt my cheeks flush, and not just from the wine. "You really like it?" "Like it? Honey, I love it. This could be your signature wine." Emboldened by her praise and the heady atmosphere of the cellar, I stepped closer. "Want to know another secret?" "Always," Tiffany breathed. I took the glass from her hand, setting it aside. "I named it after you. Tiffany's Twilight." And then we were kissing again, more urgently this time. Tiffany's hands tangled in my hair as I pressed her against the cool stone wall. She tasted of wine and desire, and I couldn't get enough. We broke apart, breathless. "Gosh," Tiffany laughed. "If I'd known your experimental wines were this good, I'd have come over sooner." I was about to reply when my phone buzzed insistently. Groaning, I checked it. "Shit, I forgot. I promised to do a virtual tasting for a client in California. Rain check?" Tiffany nodded, straightening her clothes. "Definitely. But next time, let's skip straight to the tasting, shall we?" As I watched her saunter out of the cellar, I knew I was in deep, and for once, I didn't mind drowning. The next few days were a blur of work and stolen moments with Tiffany. We'd meet for coffee in the mornings, our hands brushing accidentally as we reached for the sugar. Or she'd stop by the winery in the evenings, ostensibly to help me with inventory, but we'd end up cuddled on the office couch, talking about everything and nothing. It was during one of these evening sessions that Tiffany dropped a bombshell. "So," she said, trying to sound casual, "I may have done something." I looked up from my ledger, instantly on alert. "What kind of something?" She bit her lip, a gesture I was beginning to recognize as a sign of nervousness. "I made a video about wine tasting, and I posted it online." I blinked. "Okay, that's great, right? Promote your skills and all that." Tiffany nodded, then shook her head. "Yeah, but it kind of went viral, like millions of views viral." My jaw dropped. "What? How?" She shrugged, looking as bewildered as I felt. "I have no idea. I just did my usual thing, you know? Talked about the notes in the wine, made some jokes. Next thing I know, my phone's blowing up with notifications." I pulled out my phone, quickly finding the video. There was Tiffany, looking gorgeous as always, swirling a glass of red wine. "All right, wine lovers," she was saying. "Today we're tasting a cheeky little Malbec that's got more attitude than your ex at a wedding." I couldn't help but laugh. It was so quintessentially Tiffany, informative but with a wicked sense of humor. No wonder it had gone viral. "Tiff, this is amazing," I exclaimed. "Do you know what this could mean for your career?" She nodded, still looking shell-shocked. "That's what I'm afraid of. I've already got calls from major wine distributors, TV producers. It's overwhelming." I felt a twinge of something, fear, jealousy, but pushed it aside. This was Tiffany's moment, and I was going to be supportive, damn it. "Hey," I said softly, taking her hand. "This is a good thing. You're talented, funny, and gorgeous. The world deserves to know that." Tiffany squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "What did I do to deserve you, Riley Johnson?" I grinned, pulling her close. "You appreciated my experimental wine. Now, I think this calls for a celebration. Champagne?" As we toasted to Tiffany's newfound fame, I tried to ignore the nagging voice in the back of my head. Things were about to change, that much was clear. I just hoped our budding relationship was strong enough to weather the storm. Little did I know, the real challenges were just beginning. But for now, I was content to lose myself in Tiffany's smile, the bubbles in my glass, and the promise of a future that suddenly seemed limitless. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Tiffany's video had opened up a whole new world of opportunities, and I found myself playing the role of unofficial manager, fielding calls and helping her navigate the sudden influx of attention. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and more than a little terrifying. "Riley, you're a lifesaver," Tiffany said one evening, collapsing onto my couch after a particularly grueling day of interviews. "I don't know how I'd handle all this without you." I handed her a glass of wine, my special Tiffany's Twilight blend, of course, and sat down beside her. "Hey, what are girlfriends for?" The word slipped out before I could stop it, and I felt my cheeks flush. We hadn't really defined our relationship yet, too caught up in the chaos of Tiffany's sudden fame. But Tiffany just smiled, intertwining her fingers with mine. "Girlfriends, huh? I like the sound of that." Relief washed over me, and I leaned in to kiss her. It was soft and sweet, tasting of wine and promise. As Tiffany's star continued to rise, I threw myself into supporting her dreams while trying to keep my own winery afloat. It wasn't easy. There were days when I felt like I was drowning in paperwork and unanswered emails, but seeing Tiffany's face light up with each new opportunity made it all worth it. One sunny afternoon, as I was elbow deep in a new batch of wine, my phone buzzed with a text from Tiffany. "Turn on Channel 5 now." Wiping my hands on my jeans, I rushed to the small TV in my office. There she was, my Tiffany, looking radiant in an emerald green blouse that made her eyes pop. She was being interviewed on a local talk show, chatting animatedly about wine and her unexpected rise to fame. "So Tiffany," the host was saying, "any special someone in your life? I'm sure our viewers are dying to know." I held my breath, unsure of what Tiffany would say. We hadn't really discussed going public with our relationship. Tiffany's smile softened, and she looked directly into the camera. "Actually, yes. There's an amazing woman who's been by my side through all of this. She's brilliant, beautiful, and makes the best wine you've ever tasted." My heart soared. She was talking about me, on live television. "Ooh, sounds intriguing," the host gushed. "Care to share any more details?" Tiffany winked. "Let's just say she's my perfect blend." I was still grinning like an idiot when Tiffany called me after the show. "So," she said, her voice a mix of nervousness and excitement, "was that okay? I hope I didn't overstep." "Are you kidding?" I laughed. Gosh, Tiff, I don't even have words. Thank you." "Well then," she purred, "why don't you come over and show me just how thankful you are?" I didn't need to be asked twice. Within an hour, I was at Tiffany's door, a bottle of champagne in hand. She answered wearing nothing but a silk robe, and my mouth went dry. "Hi," I managed to squeak out. Tiffany's grin was positively wicked. "Hi yourself, winemaker, get in here." What happened next was a blur of silk and skin and breathless laughter. We celebrated Tiffany's success and our newly public relationship in the most delicious way possible, leaving us tangled in her sheets, breathless and giddy. "You know," Tiffany murmured, tracing lazy patterns on my bare shoulder, "I never expected any of this when I moved to Tulsa. The fame, sure, that's a surprise. But you're the real unexpected treasure." I propped myself up on an elbow, looking down at her flushed face. "Careful there, sommelier, you're starting to sound like a cheesy romance novel." She laughed, pulling me down for another kiss. "Sue me, I'm happy." As we lay there, basking in the afterglow, I couldn't help but feel like everything was finally falling into place. Sure, there were challenges ahead, my struggling winery, the pressures of Tiffany's newfound fame, but in that moment, none of it mattered. We had each other, and that was enough. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Tiffany humming in the kitchen. I padded out, wrapping myself in her discarded robe. "Morning, superstar," I said, accepting the mug she handed me. Tiffany rolled her eyes, but her smile was fond. "Hardly. Though I did get an interesting call this morning. There's a big wine convention in New York next month, and they want me to be a featured speaker." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Tiff, that's huge. Are you going to do it?" She bit her lip, looking uncertain. "I want to, but it's a week long. I'd have to leave the winery and you." I set down my mug and took her hands in mine. "Hey, look at me. This is an amazing opportunity. The winery will survive without you for a week, and so will I. You have to do this." "You're sure?" she asked, her green eyes searching mine. I nodded, ignoring the little pang in my chest at the thought of being apart for so long. "Absolutely. Besides, think of all the industry connections you could make. It could be great for both of us." Tiffany's face lit up, and she threw her arms around me. "You're the best, you know that?" As I hugged her back, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to change again. But that was okay. We'd weather whatever storms came our way, together. Little did I know, the biggest challenge to our relationship was just around the corner. But for now, I was content to lose myself in Tiffany's embrace, the warmth of the morning sun, and the promise of a future that seemed brighter than ever. The week of the New York Wine Convention arrived faster than I'd anticipated. Tiffany was a bundle of nervous energy as we stood in the Tulsa airport, her suitcases packed with more outfits than I thought possible. "You're going to be amazing," I assured her, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "Just be yourself and they'll love you." Tiffany's smile was shaky but determined. "Thanks, babe. I just wish you could come with me." I sighed, thinking of the mountain of work waiting for me back at the winery. Me too. But hey, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? As I watched her disappear through security, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. But I pushed it aside, focusing instead on the pile of orders I needed to fill, and the new batch of Tiffany's Twilight that was nearly ready for bottling. The first few days without Tiffany were tough, but manageable. We texted constantly, and she'd call every night, regaling me with stories of the eccentric wine experts she was meeting and the exotic vintages she was tasting. "There's this one sommelier from France," she told me on our third night apart. "He's got this crazy theory about pairing wines with emotions instead of food. Can you believe it?" I laughed, imagining Tiffany's skeptical expression. "Sounds like a load of bull to me. What would you pair with, say, mild irritation?" She mused. "Probably a nice dry Riesling, crisp enough to cut through the bullshit." God, I missed her. It was on the fourth day that things started to unravel. I was elbow deep in a new experimental blend when my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a tag on Instagram: Tiffany, looking stunning in a sleek black dress, her arm around a tall, handsome man I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Making new friends at #WineCon. Can't wait to see what Chateau Leblanc has in store for us." I felt a twinge of something ugly in my chest. Jealousy? Insecurity? I tried to shake it off. Tiffany was just networking, doing her job. But the knot in my stomach refused to loosen. That night, our call was shorter than usual. Tiffany seemed distracted, her eyes darting off screen as we talked. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Oh yeah, just busy. Listen, I've got to run. There's a late-night tasting I can't miss. Talk tomorrow?" Before I could respond, she'd ended the call. I stared at my dark phone screen, feeling a chasm opening between us. The next day brought more social media updates. Tiffany at glamorous parties, Tiffany tasting rare vintages, Tiffany laughing with industry bigwigs, and always, that handsome man from Chateau Leblanc hovering nearby. Meanwhile, I was dealing with a crisis at the winery. A whole batch of Cabernet had gone bad, and I was facing the possibility of a significant financial loss. When I finally got hold of Tiffany that evening, I was at my wit's end. "I don't know what I'm going to do," I confessed, fighting back tears. "This could ruin me, Tiff." There was a beat of silence, then Tiffany's voice, sounding oddly distant. "That's rough, babe, but hey, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Oh, before I forget, I've been offered an amazing opportunity." My heart sank. "Oh?" "Yeah, Chateau Leblanc wants me to be their brand ambassador. Can you believe it? It would mean relocating to France for a few months, but the exposure would be incredible. The world seemed to tilt on its axis." "France? For months? But what about us?" Tiffany's laugh was bright, oblivious to my distress. "Oh, we'll make it work. Think of all the amazing wines I'll be able to introduce you to. This could be huge for both our careers." I ended the call feeling numb. How had things changed so quickly? Just a week ago, we were planning our future together, and now I felt like I was losing her. The next few days passed in a blur of worry and resentment. I threw myself into work, trying to salvage what I could of the ruined batch and ignoring the constant pings of my phone. Each new photo of Tiffany living it up in New York felt like a knife twisting in my gut. It all came to a head the night before Tiffany was due to return. I'd had a particularly grueling day, dealing with angry customers and uncooperative suppliers. When Tiffany called, bubbling over with excitement about her new opportunity, something in me snapped. "Do you even care about what's happening here?" I demanded, my voice sharp. "I'm drowning, Tiffany. My business is in trouble. I'm stressed out of my mind. And you're off gallivanting around New York with your new fancy friends." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. When Tiffany spoke, her voice was cold. "That's not fair, Riley. I'm working, just like you. It's not my fault things are tough at the winery." "No, but it wouldn't kill you to show a little concern," I shot back. "Or are you too busy planning your new life in France?" "Maybe I am," Tiffany snapped. "At least someone appreciates my talents." The moment the words left her mouth, I knew we'd crossed a line. We both fell silent, the weight of our argument hanging heavy between us. I think we both need to cool off," Tiffany finally said, her voice small. "We'll talk when I get back, okay?" I mumbled an agreement, and the call ended. As I sat there in my empty winery, surrounded by the fruits of my labor that now seemed to be crumbling around me, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the beginning of the end? The thought of losing Tiffany, of watching her soar to new heights while I was left behind, was almost unbearable. But as I looked around at the life I'd built, the dreams I'd poured into every bottle, I realized I wasn't ready to give up, not on my winery and not on us. Tomorrow, Tiffany would be back. Tomorrow, we'd face our problems head on. And maybe, just maybe, we'd find a way to blend our lives as perfectly as we did our wines. But as I finally dragged myself to bed, one question echoed in my mind. Was love enough to bridge the growing gap between us? The morning Tiffany was set to return, I woke with a knot in my stomach. Our argument still echoed in my mind, and I wasn't sure where we stood. I busied myself at the winery, trying to distract from the anxiety gnawing at me. When the door chimed, I looked up to see Tiffany standing there, looking travel-worn but beautiful as ever. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the air thick with unspoken words. "Hi," she finally said, her voice small. "Hi," I echoed, wiping my hands on my jeans. "How was your flight?" She shrugged. "Long, Riley, But before she could finish, my phone rang. It was my supplier, calling about the bad batch of Cabernet. I shot Tiffany an apologetic look and took the call, stepping into my office. By the time I emerged, Tiffany was gone. In her place was a note, "Had to run. Big meeting with Chateau Leblanc rep. Talk later?" I crumpled the note, frustration and hurt bubbling up inside me. This wasn't how our reunion was supposed to go. The next few days were a blur of missed connections and stilted conversations. Tiffany was busy with follow-ups from the convention, while I was knee-deep in damage control at the winery. We were like ships passing in the night, never quite managing to dock at the same port. It all came to a head at the Tulsa Wine Festival. I was there showcasing my wines, hoping to drum up some much-needed business. Tiffany was a featured speaker, her new celebrity status drawing quite a crowd. I watched from afar as she charmed the audience, her green eyes sparkling as she described the nuances of a particularly complex Bordeaux. She was in her element, radiant and confident. I felt a surge of pride, quickly followed by a pang of insecurity. Where did I fit in this new, glamorous world of hers? As the crowd dispersed, I saw him approach, the handsome man from Chateau Leblanc. He leaned in close, whispering something in Tiffany's ear that made her laugh. My hands clenched involuntarily, nearly crushing the wineglass I was holding. "Quite the star, isn't she?" a voice beside me said. I turned to see an older woman, her eyes twinkling knowingly. I nodded, trying to keep my voice neutral. "She certainly is." The woman sipped her wine, studying me. "You know, dear, in my experience, the best vintages are the ones that can weather any storm. They might change, evolve, but at their core, they remain true to their essence." Before I could respond, she'd melted back into the crowd, leaving me to ponder her words. Taking a deep breath, I made my way over to Tiffany and her admirer. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. "Great speech." Tiffany's eyes lit up when she saw me, and some of the tension in my chest eased. "Riley, I'm so glad you're here. This is Jean-Luc from Chateau Leblanc." "Jean-Luc, this is Riley, my..." She hesitated, and I felt my heart sink. But then she reached out, intertwining her fingers with mine. "My girlfriend. And the most talented winemaker in Oklahoma." Jean-Luc's eyebrows rose slightly, but he smiled politely. Ah, the famous Riley. Tiffany has told me much about you and your quaint little winery. I bristled at his condescending tone, but Tiffany squeezed my hand. Riley's wines are anything but quaint, she said firmly. In fact, why don't you try some? Before I knew it, I was pouring Jean-Luc a glass of my Tiffany's Twilight blend. He swirled it, sniffed it, and took a sip. His eyes widened in surprise. This is remarkably complex, he admitted. The lavender note is unexpected, but it works beautifully. Mademoiselle Riley, I believe I may have underestimated you. I couldn't help but smile, feeling a surge of pride. Thank you. It's a labor of love. Jean-Luc nodded thoughtfully. You know, we at Chateau Leblanc are always looking for unique collaborations. Perhaps we could discuss a limited edition blend? My jaw dropped. A collaboration with Chateau Leblanc could put my winery on the map. I looked at Tiffany, who was beaming with pride. I'd be honored, I managed to say. As Jean-Luc excused himself to make a phone call, Tiffany turned to me, her eyes shining. See? I told you you were talented. The world is finally starting to see what I've known all along. In that moment, all the tension and resentment of the past week melted away. I pulled her close, not caring who saw. I'm sorry, I murmured, for doubting us, for letting my insecurities get the best of me. Tiffany cupped my face in her hands. I'm sorry too. I got caught up in all the excitement and forgot what really matters. You, Riley. Us. And then she was kissing me, right there in the middle of the festival. I heard a few gasps and whispers, but I couldn't have cared less. All that mattered was the woman in my arms. When we finally broke apart, both a little breathless, Tiffany grinned. So, about that offer from Chateau Leblanc. You should take it, I said, surprising myself. It's an amazing opportunity. And hey, I hear France has some decent wines. Might be worth checking out. Tiffany's eyes widened. You'd come with me? I nodded. We'll figure it out. Maybe I can split my time, work on expanding the business internationally. As long as we're together, we can make it work. She laughed, pulling me in for another kiss. Look at us, planning a future in France. Who would have thought? As we stood there, surrounded by the buzz of the festival, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We still had challenges ahead, my struggling winery, the logistics of a long-distance relationship, but for the first time in weeks I wasn't afraid. We were stronger together, like a perfectly balanced blend. Little did I know, our relationship was about to face its biggest test yet. But in that moment, with the taste of victory and Tiffany's kiss on my lips, I was ready to take on the world. The high from the wine festival carried us through the next few weeks. Tiffany and I were in our own little bubble, planning our future in France and dreaming of the possibilities that lay ahead. But as they say, reality has a way of bursting even the most beautiful bubbles. It started with a phone call from my mother. I was in the middle of bottling a new batch of Tiffany's Twilight when my cell rang. Riley, honey, my mom's voice was tight with concern. Have you seen the news? I felt a chill run down my spine. No, what's going on? It's about you and Tiffany. There's a video. I nearly dropped the bottle I was holding. With shaking hands, I pulled up the local news website on my computer. And there it was, splashed across the homepage. Local winemaker in steamy same-sex scandal. The video, apparently taken by someone at the wine festival, showed Tiffany and me kissing. It wasn't particularly scandalous by most standards, but in conservative Tulsa, it was enough to cause a stir. Oh shit, I muttered, forgetting my mother was still on the line. Language, Riley, she chided automatically, then sighed. Are you okay? Do you need us to come over? I took a deep breath, touched by her concern despite the circumstances. No, I'm fine, thanks, Mom. I'll call you later, okay? As soon as I hung up, my phone started buzzing with notifications, messages from friends, missed calls from local reporters, and a text from Tiffany. Just saw the news. You okay? Call me ASAP. I was about to dial her number when the winery door chimed. Looking up, I saw a face I hadn't seen in years. Sarah Johnson, my old high school nemesis and current president of the Tulsa Wine Association. Well, she drawled, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the counter. If it isn't Tulsa's latest celebrity. I straightened my spine, refusing to be intimidated. Sarah, to what do I owe the pleasure? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Oh, just thought I'd stop by and see how you're handling your newfound fame. Must be quite a shock having your private life so public. I bit back a retort, reminding myself that Sarah held considerable sway in the local wine community. It's certainly unexpected, I said carefully, but Tiffany and I have nothing to be ashamed of. Sarah's eyebrow arched. No? Well, not everyone agrees. In fact, several members of the association have expressed concerns about your continued membership. My stomach dropped. Being part of the Tulsa Wine Association was crucial for networking and sales. Losing that could be devastating for my already struggling business. On what grounds? I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. Sarah shrugged, examining her nails. Oh, traditional values, family-friendly image, that sort of thing. We can't have anything too controversial associated with our brand. I felt a surge of anger. My relationship has nothing to do with my skills as a winemaker or my contribution to the association. Perhaps, Sarah conceded, but perception is everything in this business, Riley. You might want to consider whether your lifestyle choices are worth jeopardizing your career over. With that parting shot, she sauntered out, leaving me seething. I grabbed my phone, dialing Tiffany's number with trembling fingers. Riley? Tiffany answered on the first ring. Thank God. Are you okay? I took a shaky breath. Not really. The Tulsa Wine Association is threatening to kick me out, and I'm pretty sure I'm about to lose half my customer base. There was a pause, then Tiffany's voice, soft but determined. I'm on my way. We'll face this together, okay? True to her word, Tiffany arrived at the winery within the hour. She swept me into a fierce hug, and I felt some of the tension leave my body. I'm so sorry, she murmured into my hair. This is all my fault. If I hadn't kissed you so publicly. I pulled back, cupping her face in my hands. Hey, no, don't you dare apologize for that. I'm not ashamed of us, Tiff. I won't let them make me feel ashamed. She smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. God, I love you. The words hung in the air between us, and I realized it was the first time either of us had said it. Despite everything, I felt a warmth bloom in my chest. I love you too, I whispered, sealing the declaration with a kiss. We spent the rest of the day strategizing. Tiffany, ever the PR whiz, helped me draft a statement addressing the video. We decided to lean into it, positioning ourselves as champions for LGBTQ representation in the wine industry. Trust me, Tiffany said, her eyes glinting with determination. We can turn this into a positive. There's a whole community out there that will rally behind us. And she was right. Over the next few days, as the local backlash intensified, we also saw an outpouring of support from across the country. LGBTQ wine clubs placed large orders, social media influencers shared our story, and even a few celebrity chefs reached out about featuring my wines in their restaurants. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. I lost several longtime customers, and the Tulsa Wine Association did end up suspending my membership pending review. My parents, while supportive, were clearly uncomfortable with the attention. One evening, as Tiffany and I were working late at the winery, my dad showed up unexpectedly. He stood awkwardly in the doorway, fidgeting with his hat. Can we talk, Riley? He asked, his eyes darting between Tiffany and me. Tiffany squeezed my hand. I'll give you two some privacy, she said, slipping out to the vineyard. For a moment, Dad and I just looked at each other. Then, to my surprise, he pulled me into a bear hug. I'm proud of you, kiddo, he said gruffly, standing up for yourself, for what you believe in. Your mom and I, well, we may not understand everything, but we love you, no matter what. I felt tears prick my eyes as I hugged him back. Thanks, Dad, that means everything. As he left, I saw him stop to shake Tiffany's hand, saying something that made her smile. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Later that night, as Tiffany and I lay tangled together in my bed, I felt a sense of peace despite the chaos of the past few days. You know, I mused, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. Maybe this whole scandal thing isn't so bad after all. At least now, I don't have to worry about coming out to my extended family at Thanksgiving. Tiffany laughed, the sound vibrating against my chest. Always looking on the bright side, aren't you? I grinned, pulling her closer. Hey, when life gives you sour grapes, make wine, right? As we drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but feel that we'd weathered the worst of the storm. Little did I know, the biggest challenge to our relationship was yet to come. But for now, wrapped in Tiffany's arms, I was ready to take on whatever the world threw our way. The weeks following the scandal were a whirlwind of activity. Tiffany and I had decided to lean into our newfound notoriety, turning it into a platform for change in the wine industry. We were riding high on a wave of support from the LGBTQ community and progressive wine enthusiasts across the country. One crisp autumn morning, as we strolled hand in hand through the vineyard, an idea struck me. "Tiff," I said, stopping to face her, "what if we created a special wine label? Something to celebrate love in all its forms." Her eyes lit up, that spark of excitement I'd fallen in love with dancing in their green depths. "That's brilliant, Riley. We could donate a portion of the proceeds to LGBTQ charities." And just like that, Love Uncorked was born. We spent days brainstorming the perfect blend, nights discussing label designs, and stolen moments in between stealing kisses among the vines. As we worked on our new project, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we'd come. From that first meeting in the community garden to becoming the faces of queer representation in the wine world, it was more than I'd ever dreamed possible. But as they say, pride comes before a fall. It started with a call from Jean-Luc at Chateau Leblanc. He was effusive in his praise of our recent media appearances and the buzz surrounding our new label. "Tiffany, ma chérie," he purred through the speakerphone, "you've become quite the sensation. We at Chateau Leblanc believe it's time to take your career to the next level." I watched as Tiffany's eyes widened, her hand squeezing mine tightly. "We want to offer you a permanent position as our global brand ambassador," Jean-Luc continued. "You'll be the face of Chateau Leblanc, traveling the world, attending exclusive events, rubbing shoulders with the elite of the wine world." My heart sank as I saw the excitement blooming on Tiffany's face. This was her dream, everything she'd ever wanted in her career. But where did that leave us? "Of course," Jean-Luc added, almost as an afterthought, "this would require you to relocate to France full-time. We'd need you to start as soon as possible." The silence that followed was deafening. Tiffany's gaze met mine, a storm of emotions swirling in her eyes. Can I have some time to think about it?" she finally managed. Jean-Luc agreed, giving her a week to decide. As we ended the call, the weight of the decision hung heavy between us. "Riley," Tiffany began, her voice small. I forced a smile, trying to ignore the ache in my chest. "It's an amazing opportunity, Tiff. You have to consider it." She nodded, but I could see the conflict written all over her face. We spent the next few days in a strange limbo, working on Love Uncorked with forced cheerfulness while the elephant in the room grew ever larger. It all came to a head at the launch party for our new wine. We'd rented out a trendy rooftop bar in downtown Tulsa, filling it with influencers, wine critics, and supporters of our cause. As I watched Tiffany work the room, charming everyone with her wit and encyclopedic wine knowledge, I felt a bittersweet pride. She was meant for bigger things than our little Tulsa winery. Midway through the evening, I slipped away to the balcony, needing a moment to breathe. The cool night air was a relief after the crowded heat of the party. "There you are," Tiffany's voice came from behind me. "I've been looking everywhere for you." I turned, taking in the sight of her. She was radiant in a deep green dress that matched her eyes, her chestnut hair cascading over her shoulders. My breath caught in my throat, just like it had that first day in the community garden. "Sorry," I said, forcing a smile. "Just needed some air." Tiffany stepped closer, concern etched on her face. "Riley, we need to talk about the Chateau Leblanc offer." I nodded, steeling myself for what I knew was coming. "You're going to take it, aren't you?" To my surprise, Tiffany's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. It's everything I've ever wanted professionally, but what?" I prompted gently. "But you're everything I want personally," she whispered. "I love you, Riley. The thought of leaving you, of giving up what we have, it terrifies me." I felt my own eyes welling up. "I love you too, Tiff. That's why I can't ask you to stay. This is your dream." She shook her head fiercely. "No, you're my dream. All of this, the wine, the success, the platform we've built together, it means nothing without you." For a moment, we just stood there, the sounds of the party fading into the background. Then, slowly, an idea began to form in my mind. "What if," I said carefully, "we didn't have to choose? What if we could have both?" Tiffany looked at me quizzically. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, the plan solidifying as I spoke. "What if we expanded Love Uncorked into a global brand? We could partner with small progressive wineries around the world, showcasing diverse voices in the industry. You could be our global ambassador, and I could manage operations here and oversee our partnerships. As I talked, I saw the spark reignite in Tiffany's eyes. Riley, that's brilliant. We could really make a difference on a global scale. And, I added, my heart racing, we could do it together. No matter where in the world we are, we'd be building something that's ours. Tiffany's smile was radiant as she pulled me close. You, Riley Johnson, are a genius, and I love you more than any wine in the world. As we sealed our new plan with a kiss, I felt a sense of excitement I hadn't experienced since starting my winery. We were about to embark on a new adventure, one that would challenge us in ways we couldn't yet imagine. But with Tiffany by my side, I was ready for anything. We rejoined the party, hand in hand, ready to share our vision with the world. As I looked around at the diverse crowd, all united by their love of wine and their support for our cause, I felt a surge of pride. We'd created something beautiful here, something that transcended just making good wine. Little did we know, our biggest challenge and our greatest triumph was just around the corner. But in that moment, with the woman I loved by my side and a glass of our love uncorked in hand, the future had never looked brighter. The months following our decision to expand Love Uncorked globally were a whirlwind of activity. Tiffany and I threw ourselves into the project with a passion that surprised even us. We traveled the world, seeking out small, progressive wineries to partner with, and spreading our message of love and acceptance through the universal language of wine. It was exhilarating, exhausting, and everything we'd dreamed of. But as the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. Our first real test came during the holiday season. We'd been on the road for weeks, and I was looking forward to spending Christmas with my family in Tulsa. It would be Tiffany's first time joining us for the holidays, and I was eager to show her our traditions. But then, a last-minute opportunity arose, a chance to showcase Love Uncorked at an exclusive New Year's Eve event in Paris. It was too good to pass up, professionally speaking. But personally, it felt like a gut punch. We can celebrate Christmas when we get back, Tiffany assured me as we packed our bags. Your parents will understand. I nodded, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in my stomach. They would understand, of course. But would they ever truly accept this new lifestyle of ours? The Paris event was a smashing success. As the clock struck midnight and the Eiffel Tower lit up the sky, Tiffany and I shared a kiss that was broadcast on screens throughout the venue. We were the toast of the party, our wine flowing freely as the glitterati of the wine world praised our vision and our courage. But as we stumbled back to our hotel room in the early hours of the morning, I couldn't shake a feeling of emptiness. Success tasted sweet, but it wasn't quite the flavor I'd imagined. The cracks in our fairy tale began to show as we returned to Tulsa in the new year. My winery, once my pride and joy, had been largely neglected in our pursuit of global domination. The local staff I'd hired to manage things in my absence had done their best, but it wasn't the same. Maybe it's time to sell, Tiffany suggested one evening as we pored over the books. Focus entirely on Love Uncorked. That's where the real potential is. I stared at her, aghast. Sell? Tiff, this winery is my baby. It's where we fell in love. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. I know, babe. But we can't keep stretching ourselves thin like this. Something's got to give. The argument that followed was our first real fight. Words were said, tears were shed, and for the first time, I wondered if we were on the same page anymore. We managed to patch things up, agreeing to table the discussion of selling the winery for the time being. But the tension lingered, an undercurrent in all our interactions. It all came to a head during a rare weekend at home. We'd planned a quiet night in, just the two of us, to reconnect and recharge. I'd even dusted off a bottle of the original Tiffany's Twilight blend, hoping to recapture some of the magic from our early days. But as we sat down to dinner, Tiffany's phone buzzed with an email. Her eyes lit up as she read it, and my heart sank. It's Jean-Luc, she said excitedly. Chateau Leblanc wants to do a major collaboration with Love Uncorked. They're offering us a 3-month residency in France to develop a new line. I forced a smile, even as I felt a piece of my heart crack. That's great, Tiff. She looked at me, her excitement fading as she read my expression. You don't seem thrilled. It's just... I sighed, struggling to find the words. When does it stop? When do we get to just be? Tiffany's brow furrowed. What do you mean? This is what we wanted, isn't it? To make a difference, to change the industry? Is it? I asked, surprising myself with the bitterness in my tone. Because sometimes I feel like we're so busy changing the world that we've forgotten about our own little corner of it. The silence that followed was deafening. Tiffany set down her glass, her green eyes clouded with confusion and hurt. "Riley," she said softly, Are you not happy?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Was I happy? I loved Tiffany, loved the life we'd built together. But somewhere along the way, I'd lost sight of the simple joy that had brought us together in the first place. The love of creating something beautiful, right here in our own backyard. "I don't know," I admitted, tears pricking at my eyes. "I love you, Tiff. But this whirlwind we're in, sometimes I feel like I can't breathe." Tiffany reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. "Oh, sweetheart, why didn't you say something sooner?" I shrugged, feeling small and selfish. "You were so happy, so in your element. I didn't want to hold you back." She squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "You could never hold me back, Riley. You're the one who pushes me forward, who makes me better." We talked long into the night, really talked for the first time in months, about our fears, our dreams, the things we'd sacrificed in pursuit of success, and slowly, painfully, we began to find our way back to each other. In the end, we decided to take a step back. We'd honor our commitments, including the Chateau Leblanc collaboration. But after that, we'd take some time off. Reconnect with our roots, with the simple pleasure of making wine and sharing it with the people we loved. As we lay in bed that night, wrapped in each other's arms, Tiffany whispered, "You know, the best wines are the ones that are allowed to breathe. Maybe we need to give ourselves that same chance." I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my chest. "I'll drink to that." The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. We had a lot of work to do, both on our relationship and on finding a balance between our global ambitions and our local roots. But as I drifted off to sleep, I felt a glimmer of hope. We'd started this journey with a simple goal, to make good wine and share our love with the world. Somewhere along the way, we'd lost sight of that. But now, with open hearts and clear eyes, we had a chance to get back to basics. To remember why we fell in love, with wine, with each other, and with the beautiful, messy, imperfect life we'd created together. And really, isn't that what the best vintages are all about? Not perfection, but character. The ability to evolve, to surprise, to bring joy in unexpected moments. As I held Tiffany close, I realized that's exactly what we had. A love as complex and intoxicating as the finest wine. And I was ready to savor every drop.